just an update, whether you have an update on the number of Americans in Ukraine?
Sure. So, as you know, and we've discussed this in the context both of Ukraine and other countries, but you well know by now that we typically don't provide numbers of U.S. citizens living in or traveling to another country. And we don't do that for all the reasons that are very familiar to you by now. United States citizens are not required to register when they travel overseas. Those that do opt to register, most of them presumably do not deregister when they leave a country. When it comes to the registration of individuals in our so-called STEP system, we are also not in a position to verify individuals who sign up. And in fact, we know from previous experiences that international organizations, third country nationals, many people who aren't U.S. citizens do sign up for various reasons. Now, having said all that, our embassies do compile estimates of U.S. citizens in their countries for time to time for contingency planning purposes. And as you know, our embassy in Kyiv has been engaged in robust contingency planning together with officials here at the department and across the interagency for some time now. These estimates are based on the best available information specific to that country, pulling on all available inputs. But even then, we are not in a position to call any particular figure authoritative or comprehensive. But I will say that for Ukraine in October, which I'll come to, that's noteworthy, the estimate was that there were 6,600 U.S. citizens residing in Ukraine. And that is in addition to American tourists and visitors who may have been there at the time. Now, we reached that estimate, as I said, based on all of the inputs that were available to us, and that includes data from our Ukrainian government partners, interactions with American organizations in Ukraine, like the Chamber of Commerce, exchange programs and international schools, and the number of people applying for U.S. citizen services, such as passports at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv. So as you will see, those inputs are instructive, but they are not necessarily dispositive when it comes to a firm, accurate, comprehensive number. But that is the estimate we were able to arrive at last October, 6,600. Now, our embassy also estimated, again, in October, before Russia's military buildup began, that at any given time, any given point in time, there could be 16,000 U.S. citizens, U.S. citizen tourists and visitors in Ukraine. Now, this was back in October. And ever since, as you know, we have been urging U.S. citizens not to travel to Ukraine. And in fact, those warnings began that very month in October 2021, October of last year. It was, in the first instance, a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and epidemiological conditions in Ukraine, and of course, more recently, due to the increased threat from Russia. And so, while we estimated at the time there could be 16,000 tourists and visitors, our best assessment is that that number is much, much lower now. And we do not believe this figure to be an accurate reflection of where we are now, since many of those American tourists, many of those visitors, presumably would have departed the country, never intended to stay more than a few days, a couple weeks, or have heeded our concerted messaging, including in recent weeks, that American citizens should strongly consider departing the country, that they should avail themselves of the plentiful commercial options that are available, both due to COVID, but of course more recently and more acutely due to the risk of a Russian invasion.
Right. My final one from me is like, are you guys doing any, undertaking any effort to reach out to these people, like the 6,600?
The answer to that is unequivocally yes. We have, as a matter of course, this happens all around the world, but especially in places where the situation has the potential to destabilize quite rapidly, which of course is the situation in Ukraine. We have been regularly messaging American citizens, sending out notices, urging them, as we have done in recent days and even in recent hours, to strongly consider availing themselves of the available commercial options and departing the country now. We have been issuing that message for some time now. We will continue to urge American citizens who, despite months of warnings that Americans should not travel to Ukraine, despite a more recent campaign to educate American citizens who, for whatever reason, remain in Ukraine, that they should leave, we will continue to be very clear through every channel we can to convey that message to American citizens, whether it's social media, whether it's on our website, whether it is through engagement with reporters like all of you. We have engaged with diaspora reporters as well, again, availing ourselves of every appropriate channel to convey in strong terms the guidance that Americans should strongly consider leaving Ukraine at this time using available options.